Hey guys, it's your boy Board Student IRL, and we're back for another Minecraft 1.16 mod review. Oh yeah. Today, we'll be looking at the mod Supplementaries, which is a mod that adds many animated and functional decorations, as well as useful and creative blocks that fit well within normal vanilla Minecraft. I'm playing with this mod currently in Enigmatica 6. The current version I'm looking at right now is the most latest version of Supplementaries, as was requested to be reviewed. And without further ado, let's get into it. First, we're going to be looking at the numerous different signs that Supplementary adds. First up, we have the hanging signs. As you can see, they can be made from every single type of wood in the game. Oak, spruce, birch, jungle, acacia, dark oak, crimson, and even warp. They can be placed under a block or on the side of a block, as you can see right over here, hanging right here. You can display text on them by right-clicking them with an empty hand, like so. So I can just say test, right, like that. You can see I can write on them, or they can even act as an item frame, and see I can just put a little stone right there. And also, as an added bonus, which I think is very cool, you can throw an item against them and they'll swing, or you can walk through them and they'll swing as well. So very, very neat. And next up, we have the signposts. So you can see that these signposts are on fence posts, and 2 at a time can be on per fence post. Now you can see that they're pointing left or right. You can shift right click on them and they will change direction, which is great. But you can also get a compass. Let's go into creative really quick and grab ourselves a compass. And you can click the compass on the signpost like that, and they'll point towards where the compass is pointing. And now this is pointing towards my spawn, but remember, you can also have compasses that point towards lodestones. So you could right click a compass on a lodestone and you could have the signpost point towards that lodestone. So let's say, for example, you have like a town or a city that you want the post to point towards, and that kind of stuff. And then of course, to write on them, you just right click on them, just test like that. And very nice. I love these things. I think that they look great in a town. Like, for example, over here where I put them in the middle of this village. I think it looks great. Finally, let's look at the notice board, which is a block that can display the first page of a book and quill. So I've written test on this book and quill on the first page, and that's what it displays right there. Pretty simple, right? And I can just right click and get it back. It can also display maps. So you can see I have a map of this little village right here, and I can click it right on there, and we're in creative mode, so it just gives me another one. But yeah, you can see the maps on there. But what's really, really cool is that you can actually use hoppers on notice boards as well. So if you see in here, I can put the map in here and it'll put it right there. So you can set up really cool redstone contraptions that can kind of, like with the notice boards, you can kind of do like a shifting image and that kind of stuff. And I think it's very cool and very open to interpretation in terms of stuff you can do. And of course you can pipe it out too, like that. But yeah, so that is all the signs in Supplementaries. So let's move on to the next thing. Speaking of blocks that you can interact with using redstone, let's look at some redstone related blocks in Supplementaries. So first of all, right here we have the crank. Now some of you Minecraft veterans might know that redstone has basically 16 different power levels depending on, normally in vanilla, how far away this the bare redstone dust trail is. And the farthest away, like before it loses power completely, is 1, and then it goes all the way up to 16, which is where it's closest to the power. However, the crank has 16 different settings, so you can toggle the power right here, and you don't need to do it via distance. And that can already make some redstone builds much simpler. But it also works well with other stuff in this mod, which we'll see in a second. But so you can see right here, it'll on the tooltip right here, you can see power 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And very nice. And you can see on the tooltip for the redstone, it's also power 1, power 2, and so on. But yeah, so that's a crank, and we'll go look at some more blocks in a second. But let's move on to another cool redstone part of supplementaries, which is the Cog Block. Now, the Cog Block is basically an upgraded version of redstone dust, in that when you power it, it sends a redstone signal through them, just as it does for these. But what's great about these is you can just connect them like this. They don't have the funky redstone mechanics like redstone dust does. They can just connect up to each other, and more importantly, they can go straight vertical like that. And now these have a range of about 14. So if I've got 14 right here, so if I flip that lever on, you can see all the way to the top of this, all these little cogs are spinning, and you can see on the tooltip too, it has a power of 1, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, all the way down. But yeah, pretty straightforward, but again, it's another feature that makes redstone builds much easier to do. So next we have the Redstone Illuminator. Now this is like the redstone lamp in vanilla Minecraft, except that by default it's on like this, so you can see like that. But what's really cool about it is that it can actually be toggled to different levels, kind of like a dimmer. So perfect, it's raining, so you can see the light levels now. But so right now the crank is off, so it's not powering anything, and it's at its full brightness. But what you can see is as we flip the crank, the brightness level goes down until when we get to 15, it's completely off, and then right back on again. So this is really great because then you can do like a cool little setup in your house with like a lights dimmer and that kind of stuff. So I am personally a really big fan of this in terms of making cool cool house builds. Another block that works well with the crank is the Bellows Block. This block has a few uses. Its primary use is that it keeps a fire block burning pretty much indefinitely. So if I light this grass block on fire, by the end of this video, if I come back to this fire will still be on. But the speed of the bellows, you can see that it's going up and down. The speed at which it goes up and down can be toggled with the crank. So you can see we've turned it off, but you can see on 1 it's just going very slow, but as we increase the crank, it goes faster. So yeah, so that's what its primary use for, but the bellows have many uses, as a matter of fact. So one extremely neat use is that it can actually make furnaces faster. So let's turn off this crank first and see how slow this goes, and then we're gonna turn it on and see how fast it goes. So if we put a piece of iron ore in here, you can see it's all right. You know, it's the speed of a vanilla furnace. Yeah, and then we get our iron ingot. Now then we get another piece of iron, and let's turn this crank up all the way to 15 and have the bellows go at its fastest. And then we stick some coal in there and a piece of iron, and then you can see this is visibly faster. So just a neat little trick to speed up your furnace, and this of course works with campfires as well, which is really nice. And then the final use for these is that these can actually push entities, which includes either items or players. So let's turn this all the way up to 15. So you can see if I stay in front of it, it'll push me. Just like that. And it'll push me up to 5 blocks. So very helpful in making mob farms. And see if I throw an item in front of it, it'll push it. So also very useful in helping with making some like item transport contraptions and that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's basically the use of the bellows. It's very neat little block. Let's move on to the next block. Yeah, another interesting block to use with the crank is the turntable. The turntable can rotate any directional block it is facing or any entity standing on top of it. It is turned on, of course, with a redstone signal, but you can interact with it using redstone in a more advanced way. The turntable spins faster based on the power of the redstone. So of course, like, you know, at the first power level, it barely spins at all, but it does spin. But as we increase the crank, it'll go faster, just like that. And then, let's turn it off. You can rotate yourself on it, which is a lot of fun, just like that. And of course, the speed will increase just the same. And you can and you can do that with mobs, of course, too. And then it'll even do it with blocks too. Let's make a little enclosure for our blocks first of all. Okay, and then if we get up on here, you can see it's still going around. Let's turn this up a little bit more. And you can see that it rotates the item around just like that. Very, very cool. And this has another specific use that we will be with another block in Supplementaries that we will be showing in a little while. But yeah, that's the turntable. Let's move on to another block. One extremely useful redstone block is the spring launcher. This block is essentially a replacement for the vanilla piston slime block setup. It works exactly the same, except that it can push entities twice as far as the vanilla setup. Additionally, if it's fully extended, you or a creature can fall in and bounce upwards. So let's check that out. So let's just see it extend just like that. It has this cool particle effect. But it extends just the same. I'm standing right here and it pushes me, and it basically acts like a slime block and a piston. And then you can see over here, this one is already extended, and if we drop on it, we bounce on it. And it has a different, of course, on slime blocks you just bounce on them, but this one I think it's really cool because it compresses and then extends just like that. And of course this could be very useful in since you can turn it on and off as opposed to a slime block and a piston. You'll always bounce on the slime block. This could also be very useful in mob transport and mob farms and that kind of stuff. But yeah, pretty straightforward, but that's the spring block. So that basically is all of the more complex redstone stuff in the mod, but let's move on to some more chill redstone blocks in the mod. Alright, now here we have the speaker block, and this is one of my personal favorite blocks in the mod. Basically, the way this block works is, let's right click on it, and it can basically either send out a chat message to everyone in the vicinity of the blocks that it's in, and you can see you can set it right here. This is 64 blocks, up down to 1 block. And you can either do it as a chat message or a narrator message. And then let's do the chat message first. And all you have to do is just send it a pulse, either with a button or with a pressure plate. So you can see in the chat it says speaker block says hello world. And then if we do narrator message,
speaker block, hello world.
So yeah, it's very cool, right? You can already see why I really like this block. I actually play with this block a lot in my Enigmatica 6 series because I put it. Some people have it in the doorways of their houses, and then when you walk into their house, it plays a narrator message. And then a neat little trick that you can do is, you can't see it, but this speaker block is named something other than speaker block. And so if you, let's do the chat message. Now, if you do it right here, you can see name change example. That's what I named it. It says hello world. So I just named it in an anvil. So you can name your speaker block anything you want in your anvil, and it'll say so. And it'll even do it on the narrator
name
message.
Change example, hello world.
There you go. So you can see the possibilities are endless with these. I love these blocks. Let's move on to the next block. Okay, so the next block that we have here is the wind vane. It's mostly a decorative block. However, it does, on certain conditions, put out a redstone signal. And there's two conditions under which it puts out one. The first one is rain. So you can see right now the redstone dust, there's no power in it. But if we do weather rain, let's wait for it to rain. And you can see it says power 1 on it. But if we do weather thunder, when it thunderstorms, I have to give it a second, but when it thunderstorms, you get a power of 2, and of course it's got some nice little animations on it too. So you can set yourself up like a little weather alarm system with this, which I think is quite interesting. And you can see there's lightning striking over there. But yeah, that's the wind vane. Again, simple and straightforward. Let's move on to the next block. Now the next block that we have here is the clock block. And it works much the same as the regular clock does in vanilla Minecraft, and it shows the hour of the current world that you're in. However, it can also interact with observers and comparators, and you can set up some cool redstone creations using this. And it gives out different redstone powers, basically depending on what time it is. So you can see right now it's 8. So we do time set day. You can see that it now has no power at the very beginning of the day. And then if we do time set noon, and you can see the hands change as well, of course. So at noon it has a power of 4, and then we can do time set night, and it has a power of 8. So you guys get the idea. But you can set yourself up and some cool redstone contraptions like that too. Again, very straightforward, but you can use there's possibilities are endless with this. So let's move on to the next block. Next up, we have the glow block. Now, this block cannot be crafted and is a little bit hard to obtain. You can only get it from the Wandering Trader, and he doesn't sell it every single time. So you kind of have to get lucky and get the glow block. But this is a neat little block. It can it basically displays a randomly generated world on the globe on its 4 faces, and it's unique to each world seed. If you click on it and give it your redstone pulse, it will spin and display your current coordinates. So if we do that, you can see that. So it shows our current coordinates. However, it can also interact with comparators, giving a signal 1 through 4 depending on the current face that is facing it. So you can see it's currently 2. However, it also, when it spins, it puts out full power like that, so 15. But then you can see the power change. That's 3. And if we do it one more time, 4. So it has different faces that it faces this with, and it can change it. So you can also make like a cool little like hidden base with this. Like I guess like when a certain face is facing the comparator, then a door opens, that kind of stuff. Depending on the power. But yeah, that's the glow block. It's a nice, neat little block. Let's move on to the next one. So the final block that we have in our little redstone repertoire is the hourglass. So you can fill it with either sand or powder. You can see that there's sand in it currently, and it will act like a real hourglass. And you can get a redstone signal out of it using a comparator, just like the globe over there and the clock. And as you can see, when the sand is in the bottom, it puts out a full power. And when the sand is in the top and going down, it goes from no power all the way to 15 when it drains. And so basically, if we get one just by itself and get some sand and demonstrate this, you can see like that, it just drains into the bottom. To reset it, the easiest way to do it, of course, is to break it. But if you don't want to break it, you can actually use the turntable to reset it. So if I give it a pulse and 2 pulses, so you can see right there it drains, and you can see the power go up just like that. So let's show that one more time. Very cool. And then you can also reset it by putting a hopper under it. So let's put a piece of sand in there, and then boop, takes the sand out just like that. But yeah, you can also make super nifty redstone contraptions with this, and it makes it really easy to make redstone clocks and that kind of stuff. Like you can have it inserting. You can also insert sand in the top of the hopper, of course, and you can just have it like it sends out a pulse at full power every time that the hourglass drains and that kind of stuff. But yeah, so that basically concludes all of the redstone related blocks, except for one, which we'll see later, but that's basically all of them. So let's move on to some other blocks. So now let's look at jars. A jar can store 4 buckets or 12 bottles or 6 bowls of any vanilla liquid. Some examples are, of course, water, honey, soup, potions, and this is a potion of potions of leaping that are in here. There's 12 stored in there. Dragon's breath, and even liquid XP. So you can see all of those can be stored in there and more. It currently can't do modded liquids, but the mod developer is working on doing modded liquids. And then additionally, it can also store cookies, and it can store fish in the buckets. And you can see in there, you can see the little fish inside of there, which is very cool. It can store 12 cookies, and if you right click on it, you can, I'm in creative mode right now, of course, but if you right click on it, you will eat the cookies. Or if it's honey, you'll eat the honey. And it does milk as well, and if you right click it, you can drink the milk as well. So they're like a nice little storage device. However, you also can capture some mobs in here, some very small mobs. So for example, this one has a bee in it, and this one has a firefly in it, which is a mob that the mod adds. But you can see if we right click it on the ground, it releases the bees. Well, this one has fireflies in it, but yeah, this one releases bees. And it also, there's a different type of jar called a tinted jar, and with these you can capture endermites and vexes. So let's try it on an endermite. Oh, we need to go into the correct game mode. An endermite, we can get them in there. So you can see there's an endermite in the jar. So we can release a bunch of them, just like that. Now we have endermites everywhere, and we're gonna go back to peaceful. But yeah, so that's the basic storage capabilities of jars. But jars can also be used with a different item from Supplementaries. Let's take a look at that. So jars can also be used in conjunction with an item called the Faucet. And now the Faucet can attach to the side of a jar, and it can remove the items and drop them on the floor, or it can remove the liquids and drop those on the floor too. But we can also connect it to another jar, and if we turn it on, you can see we have to pulse it, of course, to put more in. It's not a constant flow, but if you keep pulsing it like that, it drains all the water, just like that. And it works with all the other liquids as well. But faucets have more uses than that, of course. They can also attach to the side of any inventory, like this one, so you can see there's 10 redstone dust in there, and it can remove items from the inventory. So you can see it's dropping some redstone dust. And this is a game changer for vanilla Minecraft players, because hoppers, of course, can't remove items from the side of inventories, but this can. And over here, of course, you can see they can drop it into a hopper, and you can do some cool item transport that way, because these, of course, work via redstone pulse, if I'm not mistaken. And what's also really cool is these work through walls, through 1 block thick walls. So you can see we have a chest on this side and a stone block, and then our faucet. So if we do that, you can see the item comes out right into the hopper. So you can hide your inventories behind walls and make it look really neat. And a few more additional uses for faucets. They can take honey out of beehives that have produced honey. This one, of course, hasn't, because I don't have any bees around. But you'll just have to take my word for it. It can remove honey from here. And then it also makes concrete production very easy, because you can just do that, and in turn you get yourself some concrete. So yeah, the faucets have a multitude of different uses and can be used in automation, or they can just be used as a cool little ambient thing to get food out of an inventory behind the wall or something like that. But yeah, that's faucets and jars. So let's move on to the next few items. Let's move on to talking about mobs and supplementaries. The mod adds 1 new mob, fireflies, which are mostly just ambient but can be captured in jars for a cool little light source, just like you saw earlier. And so you can see if we try to spawn them, they don't work because it's not nighttime. But if we do time set night, then they'll stay. And there's cool little guys that just exist, and you can capture them in jars, and they're very cool. But there's some more stuff that you can do with mobs in supplementaries, such as the mob cages. Now, the mob cages kind of work like jars, except that you can capture other animals. You can't capture chickens and rabbits, of course, in jars, but you can capture them in mob cages. And then, of course, just as the same with jars, you can see here's an example of a mob cage. If you use it, then it'll put the animal out. And you can use it. You can even use it on baby slimes, I believe. So we have an empty mob cage right here. So let's demonstrate how this works. Let's do times a day, and then turn it off of peaceful, and we should get some slimes. Yeah, here we go. So let's find ourselves a baby slime. There you go. So now we have a slime, and we can spawn a bunch of them. This, of course, is only happening as we're in creative, but it'll empty the cage again. But yeah, and you can also in the config files change what mobs can be put into mob cages. And be sure to experiment with this on a single player world before you do it like in a server or something like that, because some mobs might be buggy with it according to the mod developer. But yeah, those are mob cages. So the final mob related item to look at in Supplementaries is the Flute. And this is a newly added item to Supplementaries, and it's to use with your pets. Now, as you can see, I have a nice little group of my little doggies right here. If I go over here, for instance, you can see they kind of follow me. If I do this, if I play the flute, they'll come directly to where I am. And of course they don't come all the way up into the air, but it teleports them to me, except when they're sitting, like you can see this bad boy is doing. See, sit, they all come to me except for that guy. Yeah, it's a cool little useful and kind of immersive little item, and I like it very much, because if you're somewhere completely different, like you went through another portal or something like that, you can bring the dogs with you if you play the flute. So it's very, very neat little block. But yeah, that's all of the mob related items in Supplementaries. Let's look at some inventory related items. So now let's look at some inventory related items. First up, we have the sack, which kind of acts like a shulker box with a smaller inventory. Now if we put it down like that, you can see in there, and you can see there's a very limited amount of slots. But let's make sure we're in the right game mode, because I don't want to break this. There's a very limited amount of slots, but there's an added twist to it, which is that you can see it shows the bones in there. If you have a second one in your inventory, like so, it actually gives you somewhat of a slowness effect, and it's barely visibly noticeable right now, but as you get more of these in your inventory, it slows you down more. But yeah, they're a very early game item, and they're basically like to use until you can get shulker boxes and that kind of stuff. But there's also a different variant of them called the safe. And now the safe is an upgraded version of the shulker box, basically, and they're immune to fire and are bound to the first player that places it or opens an unbound one. So this is my safe, and no other player can open it. However, other players can break it unless you disable it in the configs. But other players can break it, so they can steal your safe. They just can't do anything with it. And if you want to unbind a safe, all you have to do is click it with a tripwire hook. And there you go, cleared ownership. But then now it's mine again when I click on it. But yeah, again, it's a cool little like safety mod, safety protection item that you can use on a multiplayer server or something like that. And it's also very immersive because it looks very cool. But yeah, that is all the little inventory related items. Let's go look at the rest of the stuff that Supplementary has to offer. So the remaining blocks in Supplementary are all decorative for the most part. So we're just gonna go take a look at the rest of them, basically. So right here we've got the pedestal, and the pedestal can display items that you just right click onto them and you can get it back like that, just like that. It can also display items that are named. So I named the sword the Power, and I can right click it on there and it'll display the name. And then finally, you can also stack them on top of each other and make cool little columns. So it's a very cool multi-use little block that this mod adds. Next up, we have the Candelabras, and these are cool little light source blocks, and you can also make them out of gold, or you can make them out of silver. And now you might note that silver is not in vanilla Minecraft. However, there's lots of different mods that add silver ingots. So this is kind of a thing to use in a modded mod pack or something like that. But yeah, these can be placed on the floor, they can be placed on the wall, or they can even be placed on the ceiling. So they're a cool little decoration light source. Now over here, we've got lanterns. And now lanterns themselves are just part of regular vanilla Minecraft. But what Supplementaries adds is it allows you to put them on walls just like that, and they'll also move when you hit them and that kind of stuff, which is very cool. And then a new block that Supplementaries just added is the copper lantern, and you can actually turn these off and extinguish them using right click, and then you can turn them back on using a flint and steel. So it's just a very cool little immersive thing, and you can turn the lights on and off in your house, and you can't do that with the regular lanterns, of course. And then moving on, we've got the planters, and now these are definitely decorative blocks in the sense that you can decorate your house with them and make cool flower pots, but they do actually work to grow plants too, and they actually grow plants without the use of water. So they have their own little environment just in their pot. And a pro tip with these is that you can actually use these in the nether to grow plants, because of course you can't place water in the nether, but these will grow plants in the nether, so a very neat little trick to do that. Moving on, we've got sconces, and now sconces are basically just torches, but they look a lot cooler. And there's a bunch of different types of ones. There's a soul sconce with a blue little light, green sconce, and sconce, just the regular sconce. And then you have sconce levers, which are actually the last little redstone thing I was telling you guys about. And you can see that it puts out a redstone signal when you flip it. And these are really cool because you can make like a cool secret base with these, that if you just click on the lever, it'll flip open a secret layer. You can see right here, like pulls a piston up and down. Just a little example for y'all. But yeah, they're very, very cool. Better than torches because you can do like a little medieval build with them or whatever, and it'll look really neat. But yeah, sconces. Let's move on. Over here we have the item shelf, and the item shelf works much like the item frame, except that the item shelf counts as a block instead of an entity, so it reduces lag quite a bit. But you can see you can put items on it if you click on it like that. And you can even place them on the side of a chest like this, and you can label what chest it is. So it's basically a neat looking little alternative to item frames. So now we're moving on to the last couple of things. Right here we've got the soul jar. The soul jar, you might ask, why is it not included with the other jars? Well, this is a mostly decorative piece, and it also is kind of interesting to get. This is also a new item that was just added to Supplementaries in the latest update. In order to get this jar, you need to have a tinted jar, and you need to be wearing boots with soul speed enchanted on them, and you need to right click on soul sand, and then you've got this cool little ghost animation, and it gives off this little ghostly light at night. So moving on to the last feature here, this is also a brand new feature that was added. This one is a really fun feature, and I really enjoy this one because it's kind of random and is kind of just there. And the feature is that you can throw bricks, but you can't. Not only can you throw bricks, you can break glass with them, just like that. You can't break a jar like that, but you can break a window just like that. So very, very cool little neat trick, and you can throw another bricks as well. And you can troll your friends by throwing bricks through their windows and that kind of stuff. Or you can even set up a little target range with bricks and break glass panes from really far away. But yeah, that basically concludes all of the stuff in Supplementaries. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more modern Minecraft content every week. But anyways, this has been your boy Board Student IRL. Thank you for watching, and peace out.